After playing the intro and a one dotted chord arrest on the first measure of the verse, we start actually playing the verse. This is started by first playing an open G string, then it's followed with a second fret on the G string, then a first fret on the B string, and we finish off the measure with a third fret on the high E string. So this is what the first measure should sound like. On the next measure, we start off with a chord of an open high E string played with a ring finger, first fret on the B string, second fret on the G string, and then a first fret on the low E string. So this chord consists of these 4 notes. So if we play these 4 notes together, that's what it'll sound like. And for the first fret on the low E string, I play with my thumb, my left hand thumb, just for comfort. And also this chord is played staccato. So we basically mute all the notes right after we play it. If we see on the notation, there are actually X markings right afterwards on the G string, B string, and high E string. And I put those there to represent a little flick. So right after that chord, what we basically do is mute all the strings, and then we mute all the strings with our left hand, and then we basically strum or flick with our right hand. So with the chord and the flick, it'll sound like this. Then we basically play the first measure again, but there's this one alteration on the first fret of the B string. So I'll get to that after. So that second half of the second measure, it will be the open G string, the second fret of the G string, and then this note would be flicked. That first fret of the B string would be flicked. And then we pluck that third fret for the last note on that measure. So from that chord and the flick to the end of the measure, it will sound like this. Now that last note of that second measure would be held out till after the bass note of the third measure of the verse is played. So I would keep holding that, and I would play the bass note of the third measure while holding that. So if we get to the third measure, we start that out with a third fret of the low E string while holding on to the third fret of the high E string. And then after that, we let go of this third fret and then play the next notes, which are the high E string and the B string together. And then we flick those 2 notes after. And then we basically play the altered first measure of the verse again, the one where we have to flick that first fret of the B string. So if I was to tell you guys, teach you guys that part again, it's the G string, the open G string, second fret of the G string, and then a flick on the first fret of the B string, and then a high E third fret, a third fretted high E string. So if I was to play you guys that measure again, that third measure, it will sound like this. Then, for the fourth measure, this measure is based off of an E minor chord. So we start that off with a high E string with a low E string played together. And then we play the third fret of the B string with an open G string. And then we flick those two notes. And I kind of don't want that high E to be accidentally hit. So when I play that third fret with the third fret of the B string with the open G string, I kind of pivot my pinky downwards so that I kind of block the high E string from ringing. So I pivot my finger to mute the high E string. And then after that little flick there, we play the first fret of the B string with an open G string. And then we play that same first fret of the B string and open G string, but this time we add a low E. And then we play the third fret of the B string and an open G string together again. And then we flick an open G string with the first fret on the B string. And then we end that measure with a high E, an open high E. So if I was to play that measure for you guys slowly, it would sound like this. And then the measure after that, this measure is based off of an A minor chord. So we start by playing an A, open A, and then we play the third fret of the B string with the second fret of the G string, and then we flick that, and then a first fret of the B string with a G string, second fret on the G string is played together. And then the same thing is played. The first fret of the B string with the second fret on the G string is played with a bass note of an A for the second time. And then we play a third fret of the B string with the second fret on the G string. And then we flick the high E with and still holding the first fret on the B string. We just flick that. And then we pluck the third fret of the high E string. And measures 2 through 4 are repeated again right after that, right after the fifth measure. And then we get to the last measure, which is different. So for the last measure, this is we start with an A, a low A, and then we pluck the third fret with a second fret of the G. And we pluck a third fret on the B string with a second fret on the G string. Sorry about that. And then we move on to a little mini strumming section. We basically hold an A minor chord with a melody line on the third fret. So basically this chord would be the second fret of the D string, second fret on the G string, and then a third fret on the B string. And I don't want to play this high E. I don't want to hear this high E, so I pivot my pinky downwards to mute this string. And then I do a palm hit over here in this area. If you don't know what a palm hit is, I actually mentioned it in the intro video, just in case if you haven't seen that. So anyways, I do a palm hit while doing a strum. This is something I actually learned from songs by Kotaro Oshio, so if you know how to do this well, then I think you'll be able to play songs by him pretty easily. Just a side thought, but anyways, if we get back into it, we basically, when we do a palm hit, we're basically strumming at the same time. So as we hit, we release our fingers like that. As we hit this part of the guitar, we release our fingers like that onto the strings. So the release would have to hit the strings that you would want. So it's kind of like a high five, I guess, kind of, but more towards this part of your hand is making contact on the guitar, because the strings come up more than this part of the guitar. Anyways, so basically when you do a palm hit, as you do a palm hit, you release your fingers and strum the guitar. And this part is still the verse, so I actually think it'd be, you don't have to play very loud in this area. So just little mini ones would do fine. Little quiet ones, I mean. So the first chord would with a palm hit and a strum. And then the following chord is actually just a strum, and you don't incorporate a palm hit. But instead of the melody line being on the 3rd fret of the B string, now we take this off, the pinky off, and finger the 1st fret of the B string. So this is definitely an A minor chord that you guys are probably familiar with. And I still don't want this high E ringing, so I block it with my index by pivoting in a way so that this high E doesn't resonate and doesn't make any sound. So after that, for this chord, we just strum it. And then it's the same chord again throughout this measure. So you don't need to worry about this part of your hand anymore. The next chord is the same chord, but now we have to do a palm hit as well. So the same thing, doing a palm hit while releasing your fingers. And then another just regular strum. And then a palm hit strum. And then these last two notes are 16th notes, so it's just an down up stroke. So if you guys practice that fast, then it'll become much more smoother. It's just you have to just gradually build speed, and then you'll find a way to play it smoothly. So if I was just to play that last measure slowly for you guys, it'll sound like this. Oh, sorry. And also, because I'm about to go to the pre-chorus part, and I have to play a lot of harmonics here, I kind of move towards the neck more as I strum. So it'll look like this. Well, that concludes our video on the verse. The first verse, actually. I hope this video helped you guys, and I'll see you guys on video part 3 for the pre-chorus. Thanks so much.